Karz talks, facts are opinions and opinions are facts. The Ford Mustang, well, I was hoping things would get better for it, but things are not getting better for it. One of the first videos I've made on this channel was about how the future of the Mustang may not be so bright and we may lose it due to the lack of sales because it's been going down and down and down ever since pretty much 2020, 2021. If you want to watch that video after this video, go ahead and click the link and watch that. But this is just a further follow-up to what I was hoping would get better, but it's not. Mustang sales are not getting better, at least here in the United States. It appears in some markets they have gotten better. I think this clearly illustrates the economic impact our country has received over the last few years. However, Ford has not played their cards right, and they're just as at fault as anyone else. And I'm going to explain why. So first of all, here we have an article from Ford Authority. Ford Mustang sales tank 32%, not 3, not 2, 32% in Q1 2025 over Q1 2024, which was already way down from the previous year. So we're at record lows, and there's no Camaro, there's no Challenger, there's soon to be a gas charger, and we might have Hemi Chargers coming back, but they're not here yet. So there's no excuse there. Everyone was like, oh yeah, well, with all those gone, Mustang sales are going to skyrocket. Except that's not what's happening. They're going down even more. Check this out. So Ford Mustang sales in Q1 United States, because that's the country I reside in and I report most in terms of automotive news, I'm going to focus on that because there are countries like Brazil who have like over 400% increase in sales. That's one thing I will give Ford credit for is these newer generation Mustangs they built as a world platform, and that has saved their asses, because if they were only selling in the United States or just North America, we're all in the red. Primarily focusing on the US, Q1 2025 over Q1 2024, we are down 31.59%, selling a total of 9,377 vehicles right there, over 13,707 this same time last year when the reports came in. So that is nuts that there was that much a significant difference. And I think when I made the first video, I was going off these numbers here, which were already low to begin with. So of course, these sales numbers are before tuning became available for the Mustang. A lot of people were upset that you couldn't tune these new Mustangs. Like, what if you didn't want to go with the Rouse packages or the Whipple packages or whatever? You wanted to do something different, or you just simply wanted to do bolt-ons and not go super crazy. You couldn't until just recently, and now you can. Will that help with sales? I think it will a little bit, but not much. And I'll explain why later in the video. I think it's just a little too late. And I think the overall issue isn't tuning. It never was. And the bigger issue is price, which is, later in the video. But so, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to see. So, okay, well, if the Mustang isn't selling, what are people buying? Are they just choosing not to buy anything at all because they're just not doing well with money? Or are they spending their money elsewhere? Are they buying different performance or enthusiast cars? Whether they're apples to the Mustang's performance, if there's someone just looking for a fun enthusiast car, there's plenty out there that are cheaper. So is that where they're spending their money? Maybe. So if we come down here and we look in this section right here, we can see sales numbers, mainstream two-door sports cars, Q1 2025 in the United States. Obviously, the Ford Mustang is down, but surprisingly or unsurprisingly, the Toyota 86 and the Miata both had pretty substantial increases year over year in sales. and the BRZ, which is, the Subaru version of the 86. The 86 had a 36% increase. The Miata had 73% increase. And then the BRZ, which has always been the less desirable of the two, between that and the 86, still had an increase, even just a very mild single digit 4.7 year over year. And so there is definitely some correlation there. People who may have been like, you know what, maybe I didn't want a GT, I was going to settle for an EcoBoost, but they're just too pricey. I can get a fully loaded 86, a fully spec'd out Miata for the same price or cheaper than a base model EcoBoost. I think that's the way I'm going to go. If I just want a fun two-door sports car. Sales data seems to be showing that right here. So it looks like there are maybe some buyers that are cross-shopping the Mustang who are going to other cars. With that said, I do believe those who are just only in the market for a Mustang, they're not cross-shopping with other cars. They're cross-shopping with older Mustangs. That's what they're doing. Most people in the market for a Mustang are choosing to buy pre-owned than new right now, if anything. And I'll show you why. So right now, here is the Mustang Builder's website. I know it's kind of cut off here, but we're going to go through the models here, and I'm going to show you the pricing. If you haven't seen lately what these are going for, well, you're about to find out. So 2025, this is a EcoBoost fastback. We're not talking convertible because they're more money. This is the cheapest way you can get a new Mustang right now, is right here. I mean, this thing is bare bones. I have hardly any option. I have no options selected. It is exactly the bare bones spec you could possibly get a new Mustang. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, even though it's bare bones with no options, you're looking at $33,610. Now, mind you, that price right there, that's not going to be your total price, because you got to think, by the time you order the car, even if you order it, you build it, you spec it out, you order it, you're going to be paying taxes. So that's going to be another few $1,000s. You're going to be paying a bunch of other dealer fees and whatnot, bull crap. Maybe you can negotiate some of that, but realistically, you're still going to be at least, just add $5,000 more on top of that price out the door. So you're looking at $38,000 out the door for a brand new, bare bones, base model, no options. I mean, probably below rental grade EcoBoost Mustang. With that said, what if we want to step things up? We don't want an EcoBoost, but we want a GT. We want that Coyote. We want that sound, that experience of the V8, but we're not trying to spend a whole lot of money. Where does that put you price-wise? Well, for pretty much a bare bones GT, we are at $48,000. Like I said, add $5,000 to that, so you are $53,000 in a base GT Mustang. And it just gets better. And by better, I mean worse. Because what if you wanted a nice GT Mustang? You're like, you know what? I don't need every feature available, but I want some upgrades. I don't want the bare bones. I want something nice. So you spec out a decent, packaged Mustang. You want the performance goodies, but you don't need everything. So you got the V8, you got the 10-speed, you got the Torsen limited slip differential because you wanted the GT Performance Pack. That gives you all of this stuff right here: Brembo brakes, K-brace, heavy-duty front springs, a lot of good stuff for handling, right? But you're like, that's not enough. I need a little bit more. So you got the Magna Ride system, you got the active exhaust, all of these really good features. This thing is pretty nicely spec'd, right? Where would this put the average guy? And this is just, regular leather trim seats. We don't even have Recaros. And this doesn't even include the B&O sound system, just the 9-speaker system. This would set you back an eye-watering $61,000, almost $62,000 $100,000. The higher you go, you probably be pushing, just keep everything the same. We'll just keep adding five. So almost $67,000 for a GT. And you're like, screw it. I got a bunch of retirement savings, or I got more money than I know what to do with. I'm a huge Ford fan. I want a new Mustang. They don't have any Shelbys, so I got to go with Dark Horse. But I want the best Dark Horse I can buy. I want everything on that car that Ford offers, everything and the kitchen sink. Where would that put you at? You are already know this is going to be astronomical in price. And we come down $82,000. At this point, you're pushing more in taxes. You're gonna probably be $6,000-7,000 out the door. So you're at dang near 90 grand out the door on a fully loaded Dark Horse. It's not a Shelby. Is it a special package? Yes, but you're not getting a whole lot for what you're spending. GT 500s just a few years ago were this price, and you got crap tons more performance for the money. When you're buying these kind of cars, that's what you're looking for. So that begs the question, if you were someone looking for a Mustang and you're in the market for a Mustang and you had a lot of money to spend on a Mustang, like $82,000, would you spend $82,000 on a brand new Dark Horse? Or would you spend that same amount of money on a pre-owned GT 500? Because there are many available for around that same price, and if not less, depending on the mileage. Like right here, look, we got one right here with 11,000 miles. That's hardly anything. 11,000 miles, $86,000. More special, if you ask me, than a Dark Horse. It carries the Shelby name. It's not that old. And I think that's what's happening. People who were, going to, like if they're going to spend that kind of money on a Mustang, they're just going to go pre-owned GT 500. Or they're going to go pre-owned GT 350. You can get GT 350 now for, in the 50s. That is still a highly sought after car. Even though it may not be the most reliable of the bunch, it's still one of the most highly sought after modern Mustangs. I would gladly spend $50,000, $60,000 on a pre-owned GT350 than a 2025 GT with just a few options. Like if I was in the market for a fun performance car, why? Just there's nothing these new Mustangs offer that justifies the cost. And I think that's what everyone agrees with. The S650 platform, there are differences, but there's not enough differences. There's no incentive for someone who's reasonable and rational with their money to spend it on a new Mustang. The ones that are buying these high-end Dark Horses and stuff are the ones that have too much money and that they just don't know what else better to do with it. They probably have a bunch of other cars and whatnot. Speaking of other cars, if the Mustang's not doing well at this price point, what about other high-end performance cars? What about the new Chevy Corvette? That can't be doing good. We come here to GM Authority, and we can see Corvette sales are down for Q1 2025. But the percentage is a lot less than the Mustang. It's 20% overall. I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that people who were in the market for Corvettes are holding off because of all these new models, the ZR1, the ZR1X. So I think that's got a lot of influence to that specifically. But okay, what about other cars? People who are looking for high-end performance cars or higher-end brands, if they got the money to spend, if it truly is an economic issue, if it's a money issue, then all brands, especially really high-end ones, are going to be down, right? No, they're not. Porsche's up in sales. 911s are up 8%. The much more attainable Caymans are up 85%. AMG GT Benz 16%. The Lexus LC is up 5%. Mercedes-Benz SL Class is up 25%. These are expensive cars, and on average, a lot of these are more expensive than the Corvettes and then the Mustangs, but they are going up in sale. Why are they doing better? But the Corvette, maybe not so much. But like I said, I think that's just because people are holding off for allocations for the 0101X, and we'll see an increase this time next year when those sales figures come in. But as far as the Mustang goes, people are not spending $90,000 on a dark horse. People with that kind of money, they're buying Porsches, they're buying AMG Mercedes, they're not buying Fords. And I think that's where Ford did themselves dirty. They have priced the Mustang into a class of car that the average buyer in that market is not interested in. The Mustang was supposed to be, the car that the affordable everyday performance car. That's what it was, right? And it still technically is, but then again, you compare it to the sales of the BRZ 86 and the Miata, which are still sports cars. They're still enthusiast cars. They're still fun to drive, and they're much more affordable. People are choosing to buy them, it seems, more than the Mustang. The Mustang has separated itself from where it should be. Especially the GT is overpriced from the factory. And I don't know what Ford's going to do about that, but they're going to have to figure out something. They're going to suffer the losses, because if they keep prices the way they are, and you can say whatever you want, it can be inflation, it can be tariffs, and perhaps, a lot of that does have influence, but Ford also put a lot of features and technology in this new generation Mustang that had absolutely no reason to be in there. They made it more technical, and the cost to build the new Mustang, I'm sure, is more than the outgoing model because of the big screens and all of the other electronics that they've added to it. All these features that no one cares about in that kind of car, they jack the price up. The chickens have come home to roost because sales are falling and falling and falling, and it's sad. I don't want to see the Mustang go away. And Ford is just not, I don't know what they're doing over there. I don't think they know what they're doing at this point. Ford hasn't had the best leadership in quite some time. These recent few years with Jim Farley, I thought would be great. It's like he is great at showing his enthusiasm for the brand, but not actually delivering it. Now, you compare him to another very enthusiastic CEO, Tim Kuniskis, which now is head of Ram and was of Dodge. He's a little bit different because he knows what everyone wants. He knows what sells, and he's been pushing for the Hemi to come back. He's been pushing, like he is what Jim Farley's trying to be. He's actually getting stuff done. That's a lot of why he resigned from Dodge in the first place, because he didn't want nothing to do with this electric charger. He was doing his best to just do his job as the CEO, and he just, like, in his heart could not do it no more. And I think him coming back into Ram and rekindling the Hemi back into the trucks, and I think he's going to make a huge influence bringing Hemi back to other brands of Stellantis. He is the true car enthusiast CEO. Jim Farley, he acts like one, but he doesn't actually deliver on that. He always talks the talk, but he never walks the walk. He wants to do all these big things. He's pushing the Mustang into a classic car that it doesn't belong in, instead of developing a car or continue to develop the Ford GT as the halo car. No, now the halo car is the Mustang. The Mustang is doing everything, and you can get it as little as 30 some grand. And we got models going all the way up to dang near $500,000, depending on if you get a markup or not, aka GTD. It's so ridiculous what they're doing with the Mustang. They are putting all their eggs in one basket. To me, that's dumb. I just think it is stupid what they are doing and how they are treating the Mustang. They're putting the Mustang into a classic car that it doesn't belong, trying to push the Mustang into a market of buyers who don't give a crap about Fords. And if they did, it wouldn't be a Mustang. I think the GTD is the only Mustang that people with deep, deep pockets are interested in because it has something special about it that no other road-going Mustang does. And it will essentially be a collector car. That's where they're all going to go. They're all going to be sitting in collections because that's that kind of car. The Mustang on a performance level was always able to compete or hit above its weight, not because of its price point, not because of, the kind of car it is, because of the aftermarket, the tunability. That's what made the Mustang great. The average guy like myself or yourself could get into a Mustang relatively affordable, and through the aftermarket and through, tuning, they could be competing with cars that they should have no business competing against with. And it's just, I think they lost touch with reality, or maybe I've lost touch with reality. And reality is this isn't going to change anytime soon. But if that be the reality, the Mustang ain't going to stay around because they're not going to do enough sales to justify it. I don't want to see that happen, but I don't know. Anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up here for this video. Let me know what you think about all of this. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to wrap it up. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with everyone you know. If you want to see more content like this and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep a lookout for the next Cars Talks video.